better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
All right, it's 2 p.m. Central African time. A very good afternoon to you and welcome to the program. It is the 11th of February. We are very happy to be with you on the program today. We do have a lot that is in store for you on the program today, and we certainly hope that you will stay with us to enjoy everything. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo, and I'm with Lungelele Makakula. Tumen, how are you?
I'm good. Sifiso, how are you this
Doing
afternoon?
fantastic. Cannot
It's quite
complain.
hot outside.
Yeah.
All right, good afternoon once again. Thank you for tuning in. This is Nedbank Business Watch. As families navigate the back-to-school season, often one of the busiest and most financially demanding times of the year, access to flexible credit solutions becomes especially important. Among these solutions, overdrafts remain one of the most convenient and reliable short-term lending tools available when used responsibly. Mtabula Dlamini joins us in studio today to tell us more about Nedbank's smart financial tool, overdraft. Stay tuned for this interview.
All right, and we'll also focus on two critical pillars of our economy, which is trade and energy. First, the Organization for Women in Trade, Eswatini, known as OWIT, is rolling out nationwide workshops that are equipping businesses with knowledge of local and international trade laws that are meant to empower bamboo stakeholders, coffee farmers, as well as MSMEs to confidently participate in domestic and global markets. We will speak to President Duduzile Nhlengetwa about how entrepreneurs can move from informal survival to competitive trade. Also, we are going to unpack the implications of the latest electricity tariff decision by the Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority, and this follows the application by the Eswatini Electricity Company. While a 20.67% increase was requested, the regulator approved 13.61% adjustment that is going to be effective the 1st of April 2026, with domestic tariffs rising by 17.23% and lifeline customers kept at 6%. We want to understand what that means for households, what it means for businesses, as well as competitiveness and the cost of leaving trade, power, growth, as well as a bit of anxiety from our consumers following this latest decision.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes after 2. Let's quickly go for an ad break and come back with our business news.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back. This is Nedbank Business Watch. If you've just joined us, welcome. We now get into our business news.
Yes, on our first story here, the year 2022, the wattle tree industry came to a standstill when exports were suspended due to non-compliance with the Forestry Stewardship Council of Southern Africa. The disruption left over 200 business owners stranded without access to markets. Well, today, the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs convened a meeting with affected farmers to map out a path toward recovery. In a meeting at Hilton Garden Inn, Babane, the Minister, Honorable Jane Simelane, promises full support for the industry.
By deepening your understanding of the Forest Stewardship Council, standards and principles, We are ensuring that Eswatini's forestry sector aligns with internationally organized best practices. Compliance to these standards is not only about responsible forest management, but also about opening doors to lucrative timber markets beyond our borders.
Siphelele Masondo, Certification Officer at the Forestry Stewardship Council of Southern Africa, outlines some of the key requirements that local farmers must meet in order to resume exporting their products.
There is 10 principles that they need to ascribe to, of which principle number 1 is that they have to comply with all of the laws of the country. Principle number 2, it's that they have to make sure that their employee relations are good, so they have to treat their employees properly. They have to have health and safety policies and implement them. They have to train their employees. And then principle number 3 is that they have to respect the indigenous people if there is any in that particular country. But in Eswatini, everyone is indigenous. Where they're operating at, they have to make sure that there is good relations with the communities that they're operating with. They have to be benefits from the forest, so there must be sustainability.
Mbegeni Nxumalo, Senior Forestry Officer at the Ministry of Tourism, says that in an effort to ensure wattle tree farmers return to the export market, the ministry has extensively engaged them on requirements of the Forestry Stewardship Council of Southern Africa. He adds that they are also facilitating efforts to have the ban lifted.
Sasibafundisile nangale mithetho yelive ukuthi nayi le mithetho yelive kufanele ukuthi ibonakale ihlonishwa. Kwesibili saphinde sabafundisa naloko ukuthi kule tindzawo labasebentela lekuto le emimangweni kubhekeke ukuthi bayichube njani le business yabo kuze ikhone ukuthi na FSC ayemukele. So nguletinye tindvo lesikhulumisana nato. So kulomhlangano nje lona ngulomunye lesizama ngawo singuhulumende ukuthi sibasite lokuthi ba-comply.
Salebona Masuku, chairperson of the Eswatini National Forestry Multipurpose Cooperative Society, says farmers were previously unaware of some of the requirements set by the Forestry Stewardship Council of Southern Africa.
Hulumende wetu angekho dutane nathi kusitshela nga-FSC kodwa abe amete in April 2018.
Meanwhile, as the Eswatini Tourism Authority works to help ensure the ban is lifted, local wattle tree farmers are currently selling their produce to large local timber businesses, which then export to other countries. Farmers say the income they earn from local sales is significantly lower compared to direct exports. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
The Central Bank of Eswatini has stated that unsecured personal loans registered the strongest growth of 5.9% to 3.8 billion emalangeni in December last year, indicative of higher demand for short-term consumption-oriented credit. Motor vehicle loans also increased by 2.8% to 1.4 billion emalangeni. Similarly, housing loans recorded slow growth of 0.9% to close at 4.3 billion emalangeni. This is contained in the monthly statistical release for December 2025, January 2026. Credit extended to households and non-profit institutions serving households increased by 3.2% month-on-month and 8.9% year-on-year to reach 9.4 billion emalangeni in December 2025. The outturn reflected broad-based growth across all major credit components: other unsecured personal loans, motor vehicle loans, and housing loans. In line with the fall in banking sector net foreign assets, broad money supply contracted by 4.9% month-on-month, but grew by 19.6% year-on-year to close at 29.2 billion emalangeni in December 2025. The month-on-month reduction was driven predominantly by a fall in quasi-money supply, while a narrow money supply continued to trend upwards. Quasi-money contracted by 10.4% month-on-month, but recorded a strong 23.1% year-on-year expansion to 17.9 billion emalangeni in December last year. The month-on-month decline was due to a modest reduction of 11.9% in time deposits to 15.7 billion emalangeni at the end of December last year. In contrast, savings deposits increased by 1.4% to 2.2 billion emalangeni over the period under review. All right, and that marks the end of our business news. It's 10 minutes after 2. We continue the program after the break.
Yeah. After the break from Owit. Stay with us. How? Welcome back. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch, our first interview segment. Now, the Organization for Women in Trade is currently running a series of workshops for businesses across the country. They are equipping them with knowledge of local and international trade laws. Now, they recently conducted training for bamboo stakeholders with coffee farmers next in line. Joining us now to discuss how local businesses can leverage opportunities locally as well as globally is President Duduzile Nhlengetwa. Welcome to the program. I think the first question just speaks to really how I've introduced you. So let's speak about the opportunities that are there locally as well as globally. Sorry, President, if you will just activate your video on your end.
Can you see me?
We can see you.
Thank you for...
Yes, President, we just want to understand how local businesses can leverage opportunities locally and globally.
Okay. No, thank you very much. We do have a number of opportunities that are available, especially in the domestic market. For instance, we are a country that's really not taking advantage of value addition or value-added products. So we rely upon South Africa for predominantly for our imports, and we are, as a Maswati, are not taking advantage. So the country is losing a lot of money in terms of buying from South Africa or in other countries, whilst we should be producing for ourselves. But within the international market space, I think the last we had as always is that we are not exporting as comparative to the trade agreements that we have with these international countries. For instance, at a stage they were saying whatever we're importing is less than 5%. So our organization is now stimulating local producers to produce and also process their goods, because you'd find that in most instances they do produce, and that is as far as they can go in terms of cultivating certain produce, but they are not processing this produce. So what becomes an issue is the fact that we are also not making the best in terms of us exporting to other countries and taking advantage of the trade agreements that we have.
Yeah, and I suppose that is why there's a big emphasis on the understanding of trade laws, something that is quite critical. How would you submit why that is very critical for these MSMEs in Eswatini today to understand trade laws?
It's quite important. In fact, when you start exporting, you are or even importing within domestic markets, you are now you must be a legal entity. For instance, in this country, we have two legal entities that we are promoting. Is either you become a business person in terms of complying with the company's law, or also becoming a member of a cooperative, or that cooperative becomes a legal entity. So it is important because they are, when you are actually trading, it then there are legal obligations. As a trader, you must also deliver on time, deliver quality products. So that has a lot of legal implications. Hence, we are saying from the very start, whether you are working in the country or outside the country, it is important to comply with these trade regulations. Some of them would come at municipal levels, others would also come at international level.
Yeah, when you look at priority sectors, you recently conducted training for bamboo stakeholders, with coffee farmers being next. Why these sectors?
For instance, for us, we are actually looking at the sectors that have got easier access to the markets, and they're not too complicated for our locals to get into. I'll just make an example with the bamboo sector. It was a pilot. It started off as a pilot project, but it is also serving not just as a trade commodity. It is also serving as a plant or a tree that can be used to make sure that we mitigate climate change as well. But by and large, we are looking at those products that have easy access. They really do not need a lot of skill in terms of as a barrier to enter the trade.
Dudu, unfortunately, our time has run out, but thank you so much for your time, and we certainly thank you for the initiatives that you continue to forge as an organization for women in trade, Eswatini, as you roll out these nationwide workshops to equip MSMEs to understand really local as well as global trade laws. Let's go for that break. The show continues shortly.
To all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@escom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Right, thank you for staying with us. Now, the Eswatini Energy and Regulatory Authority has announced an additional 13.67% tariff increase that is going to be effective the 1st of April this year, and on top of the 7% average tariff hike for the 2026-2027 financial year. Now, this will see consumers getting 34 units for 100 emalangeni, which was previously 40 units. Initially, the Eswatini Electricity Company had requested a 20.67% this financial year. Now, what does this mean for local businesses already grappling with rising costs? And could this latest increase drive inflation even higher, putting more pressure on consumers? Sanales B, our economist, joins us now to unpack the economic impact of these developments. Sanele, thank you for joining us on the program. I suppose it's important for us to really understand whether them agreeing to go down to 13% from the initially proposed 20.67%. Is this a compromise that balances sustainability and affordability?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumad, and a good afternoon to you and to the viewer. So what we're seeing here is, EEC coming out to play, really just trying to get that tariff increment as a cost recovery strategy. So at the face of it, it does appear to be what you say, somewhat of an average and a middle ground type of position. But what it culminates to, like you've already said, is, on top of what EEC asked for last year, I think right now what the energy regulator is trying to do is get EEC to that point where they are able to, do both cost recovery and also be able to sustain and maintain the grid. So basically, it just takes us back to the initial position of 2025 that we saw, where EEC was asking for a 20-point-something increment over the next 3 years. So I think right now, on overall, they will get to that level. So it does, in a way, balance sustainability within the power utilities company, but, a lot remains to be seen in terms of what happens in terms of businesses and consumers, like in the overall economy.
And still on the big picture, what would you say are some of the economic factors that influenced this decision mostly?
So what we saw last year was EEC asking for something in the same region, and largely it was mostly cost recovery. And right now, what we saw earlier on in the year was EEC. Late last year, EEC really did present a situation where they were now in a in a loss position due to the fact that they couldn't get the right cost recovery strategies, and then also the cost of imports from South Africa and Mozambique were going up, and also we're contending with a bit of a drought. So right now we're seeing we have more than enough rains. We don't know how much of an impact that is going to have on the utilities side of things, but we saw in the balance sheet and the books, the financial report that EC presented, the fact that they were struggling to maintain the grid and provide power to the optimal levels. And I mean, if we recall back last year to the winter period from May right through to August, the whole country was on rotational load shedding for an hour or two, some like 4 hours a day.
When we look at the domestic impact now, of course, the big conversation is around tariffs, and domestic tariffs rising by 17.23%. Lifeline tariffs, however, at a limited 6%. Is this sufficient protection?
Sufficiency depends on the side, on the angle from which you're looking. But what has to be commended is the fact that we're seeing this differential approach, and the energy regulatory company, regulatory agency, it's trying to ensure that they balance, the most vulnerable, together with, when they're granting this tariff increment. But the question of whether is it enough, when you're looking at the macroeconomics, where we're dealing with high unemployment and we're dealing with quite a number of economic problems in the kingdom, so it does call into question whether this is quite sufficient or not, and whether the salaries and the incomes of those low-income households are actually increasing by the same amount. If I would have argued, for quite a lesser amount in terms of that lifeline tariff, or a zero increase at all, because it is targeting those households, the most vulnerable households. And I mean, it's not just an automatic entry into that. You have to find ways of going there, registering, and doing quite a lot of work to ensure that you can get that somewhat of a subsidy. But we do acknowledge and commend the fact that they did look into that, and they tried to protect vulnerable households.
And then how does all of that affect household disposable income, as well as the cost of living?
So what we have to look at is a threefold type of arrangement. The first arrangement is the fact that it's going to show on your bill. As of April 1, when you buy units, you're going to be getting less than you are getting today. So what that takes away is your disposable income gets chopped off a bit, because that money that you would have used to buy those units, you now need to add more money. So you have to take off something from your consumption basket, just so you can get, sufficient units to run you through the month. So now that's the direct impact, where households are going to feel that impact. And then also in terms of businesses, because there is that 17%, for commercial, for commercials, for the commercial space. What that is going to translate into is an increase in the cost of production, which will most likely get transferred into consumers through the price. So over and above, your disposable income will be taken by that direct increase, and then also the indirect increase through inflation.
I want us to look at business and industry, because there has been quite the increase as well. Corporate energy and demand charges are increasing by 17%. How does that affect their output in terms of manufacturing and MSMEs? How much pressure does it put on manufacturing and MSMEs?
Electricity is, I think, the second most important vital input into production processes after fuel. So literally every firm and factory that you have out there relies on somewhat of an electrified type of production system. So once you see this 17% increase in terms of your electricity costs, now that's a 17% increase in your, that's going to amount into somewhat of an increase in your cost of doing business or the cost of supplying the commodities that you're putting out in the market. And once you are dealing with that high cost environment, you would also need to be in a position to take that out at a higher margin or a higher price to the final consumer. So that's going to be two impacts there. You might find that the consumer will not be in a position to absorb this new shock, and then that makes your products a bit less competitive in the domestic market because they're going to be expensive. And then also in terms of competitiveness in the regional and global markets, once you have your power costs going up, now that's also going to creep into the price and makes the commodities a bit less competitive in the global markets, right? And then when you look at the inflation figures for, let's say, from September to right now, we were seeing somewhat of a disinflation, in other categories like your food. But when you looked at electricity and energy-related costs, that is what has been driving inflation upwards in the past quarter. So now that shows that businesses are somewhat heavily investing and being involved in, purchasing electricity and maybe even exploring alternative power solutions. So right now, what this is going to do is we should actually see a bit of more inflation. And when you look at the previous quarter inflation figures, they are telling of the fact that, energy is one of the rising costs. And it does add and eat into the business margins, and it affects the competitiveness in the economy. And we should then expect to see a bit of more inflation coming through come April 1, once we see this kick in.
I'm also inferring, from what you're saying, that this could also come with an inevitable ripple effect from business and industry into the household impact, in the sense that businesses may consider transferring these costs onto the consumer.
Yeah, that's what is going to happen, Mr. Ngumalo. The basic law of pricing is do not sell below what you are putting in there. So essentially, we do expect this to be transferred into to the price. It should reflect in the price. So come April 1, we should start seeing, a bit of an uptick in inflation, more especially in those commodities that are heavily reliant on power. Those energy-laden industries are actually going to be seeing, we're going to see a bit of inflation coming from there. And then you contrast that with an already overstretched consumer, Mr. Ngumalo, because again, if you look into the inflation figures, what we saw, there was somewhat of a paradox. We saw consumers really just, we saw an upward inflation trend in clothing and garments, but no, food was coming down because of, the goods rain season. But overall, the one thing that we usually look out for to see how well a consumer is spending after retail and that food aspect of things is, that accommodation and hotel sector, because that's where people spend the extra money if they have. But that was on a disinflationary trend throughout the last quarter of last year, and we're yet to see the January figures. But now that shows and indicates that the consumer is somehow stretched. So we don't know how the consumer is going to be able to deal with even further increases in the prices, because what that is going to do is might limit demand, and we might push consumers back to that type of search type of conundrum, where you're spending more time searching for the commodities that you would rather use compared to just walking into a shop and buying. So we are going to see a shift in consumer spending spectrums. And also, this will inevitably go into the wage negotiation processes for next year. And we're talking of government having given this salary review last year, and it wasn't all paid up. So right now, imagine how an inflation outlook in the positive is going to affect those wage negotiations over and above what the government is facing. So we are looking for
Well, it seems as though we have lost our economist there, Sanil Sbiya, who is chiming in the latest tariff decision by Esera after that proposal by Eswatini Electricity Company. It's no longer something that is being discussed, but it's something that has been passed. And I suppose the biggest optimism right now for the consumer lies on the Minister of Energy, and that is the biggest conversation right now. Otherwise, the horrors continue to persist for the consumer as they continue to lean on that optimism. And indeed, that is our conversation. We'll go for a net break now. We'll be back shortly.
All right, so welcome back. You're still tuned in to Eswatini TV. This is Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. Dabula Dlamini from Nedbank. He's the team sales at Nedbank Manzini branch. He joins us today to talk more about Nedbank's smart financial tool, the overdraft. A very good afternoon, Kosi. Welcome back. Thank you for coming through. So, yes, we're back again to talk about the overdraft account. What is an overdraft and how is it different from a traditional personal loan?
Good afternoon, Tomani. So thanks for the opportunity. May I take this opportunity to greet the viewers at home? And in terms of the overdraft facility, an overdraft facility is an opportunity which is extended to our client in terms of that they can be in a position that they can withdraw money that they don't have on their account. So it's a facility that is extended to the client whereby the client can access more money than he has on the account. So it enables a client to utilize the funds without having the money, but he has an obligation that he has to pay back that funds.
Yeah, we know that, as adults, we go through financial demanding seasons, such as the back-to-school season. How is this tool useful in such, situations? Okay,
thank you for that question. The overdraft facility gives a client at home who has a family and who has children who are going to school to access fund. We take note that as a Nedbank, you find that clients have challenges when it comes to paying back the school fees and in terms of budgeting and all the other elements that is involved in budgeting. So if you find yourself out of budget, and then we are saying, instead of being stressed further, Nedbank is providing this solution to our clients, and we're saying they can come through so that we can offer them this opportunity where they can access the funds at Nedbank.
So is it only for short-term cash flow challenges and unexpected expenses?
Yes, we encourage for short-term challenges that we are experiencing, and we are looking at the situation that because it's a short-term loan in a way, which afford you to be awarded to you for over a period of 12 months. And within the 12 months, you can make a decision whether you clear it or you can even clear it on monthly basis. But it is a short-term and it is designed to cover very, very challenging situation that we are experiencing instead of being exposed to the other situations that you can't even find another funds to pay back the situation that we are experiencing at that point in time.
Okay, so what are the requirements and who is eligible to apply for an overdraft?
All clients from Nedbank are eligible to apply for an overdraft, and anyone who has a pay slip who get paid salaries through Nedbank can come through Nedbank and be assisted in terms of being awarded the overdraft facility.
Okay, so how does it work exactly? Do I need to have funds in my account, and how long do I need to be with Nedbank in order for me to be eligible to have this overdraft account?
Okay, our waiting period is that we just need one salary in your account. Okay. Once the salary has gone through once, then you are eligible that we can afford you an overdraft. However, there are elements where we do affordability test. Remember, we need to not to lend recklessly, so we do assessment on the clients, and once we see that the client is affording the overdraft, it is awarded to the client, and it is a solution that we encourage for clients who are disciplined, because it also needs discipline for an individual to work around it.
Okay, so let's talk about limits, and also let's talk about interest, because we know that anything that has to do with transactions has interest. What is the limit, firstly, and what are the interests that you concur when you have the overdraft?
Okay, when it comes to overdraft, we afford our clients at prime plus 10%, which is the current rate that we award to our clients, and that is the interest that the client has to pay. But this interest that we're talking about, it's annually, it's not monthly. When we're saying you are going to be charged an interest of 10% plus prime, it's through 12 months, it's not one month situation. And it depends on the balance that you have in account. Like, take for example, if you have an overdraft of 10,000, you will, if you utilize only 5,000, you will not be charged the interest of 10,000. You will be charged the interest of the overdrawn amount, which is 5,000 at that point in time. So it gives you also an opportunity to manage your funds in that essence.
Okay, do I still, am I still eligible if I have a personal loan with the Nedbank? Do I still, am I still able to have an overdraft?
Yes, anyone who has any other facility in Nedbank, not limited to personal loan, even ABF and home loans, you are eligible to apply for an overdraft at Nedbank, and you can be awarded based on our affordability test. Okay,
so we know that, overdrafts are useful, as you've just highlighted and explained, but also they can be risky if you're not a disciplined customer. What guidance do you normally give your customers before, applying and using the overdraft?
Thank you for that question. As Nedbank, we have an obligation to provide financial literacy to our client. So when we are servicing our client, we share information around those lines, the importance of financial management, because we literally put all our clients under the financial journey of Nedbank, where we then share information to them, and they are in a position to understand how to manage their money.
Okay, so who's actually best suited to have this smart tool, Nkosi? Because as you said, it needs a disciplined customer, someone who knows how to maneuver with money. Who's actually best suited for this overdraft account?
I would say everyone who is a client at Nedbank is eligible to access this solution. And in terms of the fact that we don't give money recklessly, and then we engage the clients in terms of financial literacy, which then give us authority to say whosoever we afford this solution has been taken through and understand the importance of discipline. And then we will literally encourage financially literacy at Nedbank.
Okay, so as families navigate the back-to-school season, what steps should they take to ensure that this facility, the overdraft, still meets their needs?
Thank you for the question. Maybe just to add another light that we are currently running at Nedbank, we have clients whom we have literally done our assessment digital solution, where we share information to our client and say, you are eligible for an overdraft of 5,000, for example. And we are saying to those clients, if they are experiencing financial challenges, they can come through Nedbank. They don't need to go through the process of applying. Theirs is already ready to be dispersed to them in a form. It's a pre-approved overdraft. For them it's just to highlight to us to say they want the overdraft, and then if they are saying yes, they will get the overdraft within a short period of time. And with the clients that is at home who doesn't have the overdraft and has not received the SMS, we encourage that they come through to the bank if they are experiencing challenges in terms of financial strains, and then they can come through to us We do the calculation, and then we will then award them the overdraft according to their affordability.
Okay, so your limit is determined by your salary and your loans.
Yes, I wouldn't say it is limited based on your loans. It is limited on our algorithm that we use to do the test, the assessment for overdraft facility and how much you can qualify for. The only solution you can get is when you come through at Nedbank, and then we can do the calculation at Nedbank, and then we can then give you verdict of the application in terms of has it been approved and how much has been approved on your overdraft.
Okay, because the technology has taken over our lives. We do everything online. Can I apply for this particular tool online, or I need to physically visit your branches?
Yes, you can access our website and you can literally apply there. There are teams behind who are already available to attend to any request at Nedbank, and anyone anywhere can access that platform, and we can use it, and we can be assured that in a short period of time you will be assisted in a way.
All right. Can I use can I swipe anywhere in the country or even outside the country?
Yes, you can swipe anywhere in the world, not only not in Eswatini, in the world, including Eswatini.
All right. So lastly, Nkosi, before I let you go, contact details in case there's more information customers would like to ask.
Thank you very much, Mtombeni. My email address is malamini@nedbank.co.za, and my contact number is 7802-2819.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Nkosi. Well, there you have it, the overdraft. But for more information, do contact Mdabula Dlamini from Manzini, or visit their social media pages, quite interactive for the smart tool, the overdraft. Let's take a break, so we are going to match. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is the final segment, the market analysis with Sifiso Nsibande, who's the Treasury Sales Manager at Nedbank Eswatini, joins us now for today's market analysis. Very good afternoon and welcome back, Sifiso. Thank you for coming through today. So, yeah, what's happening in the markets today? We are expecting the labor data to be released today. What's happening there?
Yeah, thanks, Lulu. Thanks for having me once again. Yes, so this is actually long-awaited data. If you may recall that the government in the U.S. has been having government shutdown because of, disagreements between the Democrats and the Republicans. So that information has been withheld for quite some time now. So you can imagine decision-making is difficult if you don't have data that will help you actually make the decisions in the U.S. So we're expecting that data to come out later on today. And basically, it will indicate the employment rate in the U.S., whether it has been improving or not, because they've been working on estimates for quite a while now. Quite also very important that we actually saw happening, which is actually affected even the markets, is we saw very weak retail sales in the month of December. So December numbers actually came out, very weak numbers there. Which signals that, consumer spending was actually muted. You may know that 70% of the U.S. economy is driven by consumer spending. So consumer spending in the U.S. is very key. So if there's less consumer spending, it means the economy is not growing. Yeah. And if the economy is not growing, then you can imagine what the repercussions will be. So December sales were very low. So people were not spending on big ticket items like vehicle sales and properties and the likes.
All right, so let's just go over through the numbers today, starting off with equities. See, what's happening today?
Yeah. So with the Standard & Poor, mainly because of what I've just highlighted, that the numbers are being awaited. Secondly, is because investors are actually taking a tone of risk off. Risk off says we're not really looking into pumping money into risky assets at the moment because of the uncertainty that is surrounding the youth economy. The data I'm just talking about, and also the ongoing discussions that is actually happening between Iran and the US. The discussions actually started last week, Friday. Nothing really much to report at the moment, except that they are all taking different positions. Iran is saying, look, I will meet your demands only if you lift off the sanctions. And then on the FTSE, we also saw it come down a bit. A lot is actually happening in the European side. One of the things that we actually saw coming out recently is the dismissal of Peter Mandelson, who was the UK ambassador to the US, because of his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, who is a convicted sex offender. And this has actually led to the current Prime Minister, Stay Kama, to be actually under pressure. Some are actually calling for him to be fired. There are jitters in the market in terms of the FTSE. The JSE doing very well, mainly because 20% of the JSE is actually coming from precious metals. So if you have gold doing very well, if you have oil and the other precious metals doing well, you see JSE actually doing well. And one of the things that we actually notice that there's actually inflows coming from foreign investors, which means they are pumping money into the JSE because where they are, there's currently a lot of uncertainty. So that's why we are seeing the JSE actually improving. And we think it's going to be like this. For as long as there's going to be uncertainty in the global environment, we will see the JSE actually doing well because of 20% concentration being precious metals.
Okay, so moving on to commodities, just getting a closer look at oil and Brent, gold and Brent or crude oil this afternoon. How is it performing?
Yeah, so gold basically benefiting from uncertainty. And the uncertainty, everybody then just goes for the safe haven. So if, like I mentioned, that investors are taking a tone of risk off. Risk off means we are not investing in risky assets at the moment because we are unsure about the future. So the safe haven is gold. And if gold is benefiting, then you see also the JSE benefiting. That's why we are seeing gold actually standing at about $5,100 per ounce, which is actually an increase to the 4,900 that we actually saw late last week. Brent crude also benefiting from supply concerns. There actually is a concern that because of the geopolitical tensions, there might be not sufficient supply of crude. So that actually put an upward pressure on the prices. That's why it's currently sitting at 74.36 per barrel.
Yeah. Okay. Just lastly, let's take a look at our currencies today. Looking at the lilangeni against the US dollar.
Yeah. So the rand is strong, very strong compared to the dollar. So the dollar is weak, but we will see what happens in the non-farm payroll numbers that are actually coming out. Many analysts are actually pointing that the rand could probably further strengthen to around 15.80, so which means there's still some room for the rand to actually continue to strengthen, because the expectation is you might not find or get really much positive numbers coming out of those data that we're actually expecting from the US. And then the British pound, it's just sort of flat. I mean, plus 0.03 is actually flat. I mean, not much of a difference because of the political jitters in the UK around Mandelson and Keir Starmer being under pressure in terms of them threatening him to fire for him to resign. The euro also came down slightly. There's actually a retreat amongst the European leaders currently happening right now, up until Thursday, where it is expected that France will take a different position from Germany and Italy in terms of how to grow the Eurozone economy. So that's the reason why it's taking a hit at the moment, and the rand is benefiting out of that.
Okay, so can we expect any more data to be released this week?
Yeah, so this week we are expecting the employment data coming out of the US.
Okay.
We are expecting information around the budget speech from South Africa, how the South African economy is going to be looking like going forward, because there's a lot of reforms that actually South Africa has been working on, but we want to know how are they actually filtering into the economy? Are they working? You remember electricity. Electricity has been an issue for quite a while in South Africa. But right now, people want to know, is there sustainability about the things that have actually been implemented? So we are actually expecting information to come out of that, and it sort of gives an indication of how strong the fundamentals are from the South African economy. Because what we are seeing in terms of the currencies is mainly because of dollar weakness, but we want to see a strong rand as a result of strong fundamentals from an economic perspective.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, Sifiso Nsibane, Treasury Sales Manager at Nedbank Eswatini, just breaking down our market analysis for today's final segment. We quickly go for an ad break and come back and wrap up the program with Sifiso.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Right, 57 minutes after 2, the biggest story around the Kingdom of Eswatini, certainly that tariff hike.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it is quite stressful, as we saw. That means priority. So now we have to prioritize buying electricity units. There's a meme going on social media. It's asking if the men are asking, ladies, should we buy you flowers or electricity units for Valentine's? So I think
it's quite obvious what women will prefer. Knowing women, they will still say flowers. And then the next day they will realize they don't have electricity, and then they will call their boyfriends again. But it's not every man. I think the wise men will make the right decision.
Yeah. All right. 10 minutes before 3 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching Nedbank Business Watch. If you've just tuned in, worry not, you can still watch this episode on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. We'll see you next week at exactly 2 p.m. next week, Wednesday. Yeah, we are live.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.
The Platform, your front row to elite perspective. A show featuring real conversations that lead to real growth and impact. About 4 young professionals sit at the table with a champion. An industry leader who's walked the path and is ready to share the blueprint. From bold questions to breakthrough moments, The Platform creates a space for mentorship and practical guidance to help you move your career forward.
If you cannot look after the resources that come your way, you will stay perennially poor. And money usually takes the character of the hand on which it's at. If it's a reckless hand, it